boring breakfast be gone. Today we are diving in on banana pumpkin muffins, another recipe straight from the pages of my new cookbook, Eat Your Heart Out. This, like all the recipes in my new cookbook, is a gluten-free recipe. It's free from refined sugar, but it's still gonna hit all those carby cravings that you might have. Fast morning breakfast, great for a nice snack. Kids love these. They're naturally sweetened with some mashed ripe bananas. I am gonna add a little bit of date syrup because I just like that little boost of malty sweetness that it brings. And because apparently I am now the international spokesperson for date syrup. That's a joke, but I'm putting it in the universe. And it is used throughout the book in places that really just can be so amped up with the inclusion of a small amount of this lovely pureed dates. So unlike a lot of muffins, which leave you hungry an hour after you've eaten them, this is a muffin that's going to eat like a meal and also give you all that same pleasure, but not leave you exhausted and hungry an hour later. This is a muffin that has oat flour and almond flour, so it's really nice and filling. Lots of great texture coming through from chopped walnuts. I add in some lovely spices reminiscent of pumpkin pie, and you can kind of zhuzh and customize those to your favorite mixes. And pumpkin puree. Yes, you can have pumpkin outside of October. Pumpkin puree adds a great deal of moisture to this recipe, which is awesome because it is part of what helps it really keep well if you want to make a big batch on the weekend and then have them throughout the week to enjoy. Also, pumpkin is super high in vitamin C, vitamin A, has lots of great nutrition coming through, additional fiber. So we are just gonna live it up with some pumpkin banana muffins. Let's bake. Okay, the first thing we need to do is make sure that you have a muffin tin. I bet you could make this as a loaf, but you would have to adjust the cooking temperature and time a little bit, and that will be a fun adventure. But I'm liking it as muffins because they're just so nicely portion sized and easy to eat, and they look beautiful. I'm gonna go ahead and mash 2 ripe bananas. The riper the better, up to a point, because they really just get that wonderful natural caramelly sweetness, and they add their own bit of moisture and hydration to this recipe as well. And you just grab a fork and smash them up. And once it is this lovely pudding texture, we can start adding our other wet mix. A cup of pumpkin puree into my mix. I'm gonna go for about 2 tablespoons of date syrup. 1 and 2. I have some melted coconut oil going in, and that's just gonna help us, again, have that wonderful texture on our muffins with plenty of hydration. 2 eggs. And some vanilla extract. It's so pretty. It looks good enough to eat. You can definitely whisk your eggs in a separate small bowl before you add all the wet ingredients together, or you just spend a little extra time whisking it all at this point. You want to really emulsify the coconut oil into the pumpkin and the eggs and the banana, which is giving us such great body in here. Look at that. I like your body. Your muffin mix. And you could obviously do this with a hand mixer if you prefer, or you just get your whisk on. Burn out the biceps. I actually got a workout in today, and now I'm feeling all those planks. Once it gets to roughly this consistency where it's all lovely and smooth and mixed together, then we can start building our dry mix, and you'll see how quick this recipe is. So if you want to make it on a weekday morning, you still can. It does take about half an hour to bake, but the batter itself is so simple. So for the dry mix, I have my almond flour, which keeps this, it's a denser flour. There's a little bit of fat in there, but it does keep it really nice and light. The texture is beautiful. Plus some oat flour, which is going to help. Honestly, oat flour, all things considered, also decently light, but it has like a lovely tender texture on these muffins. So whisking together the almond flour and the oat flour. I'm also gonna add at this point some baking soda, some cinnamon, and some cardamom. And this is where, if you wanna customize and add ginger, and if you wanna add double cardamom, no cinnamon, more nutmeg, allspice, whatever, like go to town with your favorite sweet spices. But I do love this blend. Whisk that into your mix with a pinch of salt. Always gotta have a little salt with your sweet, just to make sure your taste buds are experiencing the pure joy of your mix. And now we can just, if you had your dry mix in a bigger bowl, you could go wet into dry, but I didn't today. So here we go. Just, working it in little batches like this actually just helps make sure that everything is incorporated so you don't have big clumps happening. But the nice thing is, because this is a gluten-free muffin, you don't have to worry about accidentally overworking gluten and giving yourself a tough result. And that's it, guys. That's how simple it is to make yourself a beautiful pumpkin banana muffin batter. I'm gonna add half the walnuts now, and then I have a surprise for you. Because you're here, and you get special treats, exclusive, just for you, in the way of chocolate, which I feel like you're always here for. I have like 3/4 cup of walnuts that I'm just gonna give a rough chop to, just to break them up a little bit more than they were. These are just pieces, but I like them a little bit finely chopped. And also so I can take this 3/4 cup of walnuts and stretch them so I get lovely texture throughout the muffin, and also some to crumble on top for a lovely bit of a hint about what lies beneath. I'm gonna add half into the batter now and reserve the other half for a nice topping on these muffins. Just stir those walnuts through. Beautiful, nice and distributed. Now we'll add them to our muffin tray. Get a 1/4 cup measure or something like that if you want to be super precise as you layer these in. You want the muffin tins about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way full. I'm avoiding doing as many dishes as possible, so I'm reusing my cup measure, and it's actually working fine. So now at this point, I mentioned that there were bonuses for you. I will tell you that if you had them, cacao nibs are a really fun way to just surprise people when they bite, because there's like a chocolatiness to cacao nibs, obviously the base of chocolate, without any of the sugar. So it's it's kind of crunchy and nutty in a way, has this great oh, I think I'm tasting chocolate. Take your remaining walnuts and just sprinkle them right on top. And then one more bonus just for you. This is not called for in the recipe, but I do find that my kids really enjoy it, and it just makes like a pretty little sprinkling on top of the muffins. I like to take a tiny bit of coconut sugar, the only other unrefined sugar used in Eat Your Heart Out, and I use it very sparingly because it's still, it's still a sweetener, it's still a sugar of sorts, but sometimes recipes desperately need like a dry sweetener, so I had to have it for very rare occasion, this being one of them, where a little bit goes such a long way to really just gilding the lily and making it so spectacular. So I have these lovely little walnut pieces, and now just a little sprinkle, a little zhuzh of coconut sugar right on top. And this is probably like 2 tablespoons total. I probably won't even use it all, just giving us a little sprinkle. Okay. You look good. You are going into a 350-degree oven for 25 to 30 minutes when they smell fragrant and there's that wafting cinnamon and pumpkin coming throughout. These are like the love child of banana bread and pumpkin pie. So when that's happening in your oven, you will know they're ready. 25 to 30 minutes. We'll take them out. We'll let them cool a little bit. And then we will bite into a sumptuous pumpkin banana muffin. Guys, guess what I found? Cacao nibs in my pantry. There's always little sneaky things hiding back there. So this is what they look like. Cacao nibs. The roasted, aged, chopped seed of the cacao pod. Full of chocolatey flavor and delightfulness and really crunchy. Watch. Crispy chocolate. And I'm just gonna add a few into the mix just to give us that little chocolatey hint, zhuzh it up a little bit. All right, the next batch is in for a treat. Another nice thing about cacao nibs is they actually are packed with antioxidants, so you're getting health benefit while boosting flavor, which we love. Okay, the muffins have been in about 25 minutes. It smells so good in my kitchen right now. Toasting walnuts, sweet pumpkin and banana, that little bit of coconut sugar dancing along the tops. Look at our beautiful breakfast pumpkin banana muffins. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna let these hang out in the muffin tin another 10 minutes. It will finish out the cooking process. It will let them cool ever so slightly. But one of the ways that you're just gonna test and make sure that they're all the way cooked, that's why we test. We test I like that little springy test, but if you have a little cake tester, you can go, they are not ready. Okay, so take your little cake tester and you can actually see those wet crumbs on the surface of your toothpick or your cake tester. They're not done yet. That's why the 25 to 30 minutes is important and testing is important. And they were tricking me because they smell so toasty and wonderful, but I'm gonna give them at least another 2 to 3 minutes and then we will come back. Okay, we're back 3 minutes later to test again. And if they are still ever so slightly undercooked at this point, it's gonna be okay because that 10-minute rest really will finish them up. Grab my cake tester. Let's try you. Perfect. Yeah, there's like an ever so slight moisture on it, which I actually like because I want them to be hydrated. I want them to feel moist and lovely, as muffins should. All right, we have patiently allowed the muffins to rest. Let's break into one. Let's pick a beautiful one like this one here. Now, if you weren't here, I would definitely eat what's on this paper. In fact, I might still. Okay, let me just tell you something. Remember I told you pumpkin pie meets banana bread? They have that almost custardy feeling of pumpkin pie. They're so perfectly moist and wonderful. This is not like a dry muffin. This is not a muffin that's gonna fall apart in crumbs all over you and your hands and your car or wherever else. This is a muffin that, again, has an element of that pumpkin pie coming through. So it has that wonderful texture to it. It holds together beautifully. The crunchy topping of those chopped walnuts plus that little sprinkle of coconut sugar is the first thing you taste. So it's really just like nutty and rich and a little bit sweet, but not too sweet. This is like the muffin that's going to start you off on the right foot today with a bit of balance and plenty of delicious fun.